The Golden Reel is proudly sponsored by Colmick, fishing tackle designed with Italian passion.
So this is Larford Lakes and this is the first ever Golden Reel final. We've got 24 anglers who've been battling it out all summer just for the privilege of fishing in this competition. It's going to be an extraordinary event.
Why do they want to be here? Well, there is a massive amount of kudos to win an event like this, but there is also the rather significant thing of £50,000 for first place. Now, big money matches are really coming to the forefront in the UK, and this straight away has established itself as one of those big ones.
We've got 3 on the calendar now, plus the Part D, which is another 25 grand, so potentially you could win 200 grand in match fishing now in one single year. It's phenomenal.
There is a lot of money there, but I ain't thinking about that. Just get on and out the rod goes round. That's all I'm worried about.
It's massive. Build up is like, it's all you're thinking about all the time. All your preparation goes into it, and all you want to do is have that one peg where you can get a chance from. It is a huge match. It's a great achievement to get through. First big match. £50,000 a lot of money obviously to anyone.
It's the first Golden Reel this year, and I think to actually walk away as champion, the £50,000 would be fantastic, but actually the trophy itself and to be the podium topper and win it would be awesome.
When you see sort of anglers of the quality that we see in these big matches, the dedication that they put in, the amount of work that goes in to get them on the bank, it's terrific sport. It's as good as anything, isn't it? The amount of effort that goes in.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, these guys, they prepare for weeks and weeks for matches like this, you know, and they'll come to the bank and it's all done, you know, they've nothing to worry about. Everything is ready. They've done the research, they've done the development of the tackle. They're ready for it, you know. The preparation work is absolutely unreal.
The match lake here at Larford is no stranger to big finals. All 24 anglers taking part in the Golden Reel final have already drawn the pegs they'll be fishing in the 5-hour match for that £50,000 first prize and the trophy. The man who's pulled out the peg everyone wanted is Andy Bailey. Peg 12 is where the smart money has gone, and he's the bookie's favourite.
Andy, you've got the draw everyone wanted. You confident?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously a favourite peg. There's quite a lot of fish moving today. You know, wind's blowing in there lovely as well, so you know that could help.
There's a list of names that have sat on this peg before and walked away from today with a lot of money under their pocket.
Yeah, no pressure. But yeah, I mean, obviously there's areas you want to be, areas you don't want to be, but fantastic area. And I've been down like the last couple of weeks and I've seen, you know, there's some fish here. I fancied peg 12 or 11 today, so I'm happy with the draw today. Hopefully it will turn into a rod match today with the wind picking up later on. With the island shook, it's undercut, but I fancy a few fish and hopefully a nice tidy match for today.
So Andy, talk us through your draw, what do you reckon?
Well, when I first drew it, I didn't really fancy it, but now I've got it, I've seen a few fish moving off the island. It's a little bit warm, so hopefully there'll be a few carp here in this area.
You've been in these big matches before, of course. I mean, what's your approach to something like this?
This lake's changed a bit now, so it's a lot of big fish, so it's about being patient, and then when they arrive late on, just making the most of it really. Don't, you know, 2 or 3 fish could separate this final today, so just got to make sure every fish counts really.
I think peg 17, I think I'm in with a good chance. I think it's a fair bank, but I'm happy with this end at lake. Even though wind's blowing that way, I still think this is a good area and in with a good chance.
Why so? Tell me why.
Deep, you've got deeper margins as opposed to onto the bank, and the good short pole pegs as well. And with this wind, I think we'll catch a bomber method and things like that.
So Winnie, your peg looks nice. Talk us through it.
Probably one of the 3 pegs on the lake I didn't want. And everyone will say the same thing. Pegs 1 to 5, didn't want to be here. But it looks nice. Like you say, it does look nice. The wind's blowing this way. But nah, it's not going to be the right end.
I think you want to be sort of around the island or in the middle of the lake if they push out. There's not been a lot of fish showing down here recently. I drew the same peg in the festival and I went 3 hours without a carp, so I think hopefully it's a bit better than that, but I'm not expecting too much, but you know, I'll still give it a go.
Well, we're approaching the start and you can see that Hughesy and I have brought along a minder. Handsome fella, isn't he? Grant Albutt, who's won more of these type of matches than I'd care to mention. Grant, exciting times. I love these big matches, don't you?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting today. I mean, it's a local venue for me. I'll come here very regularly, so it's going to be interesting. I mean, obviously, yeah, well, everyone's going on about peg 12, but I think there could be a, shake up here. I think it could be come from a different peg.
What do you think about what Andy Bailey was saying to you a few minutes ago, Hughesy?
You've got to look at track record with venues, and the track record of this end, everything about it says that the fish shouldn't be here. There's a reasonable amount of pressure around people walking past. The wind's blowing in the other direction. There's a few fish moving at that bottom end. They just love it up here. And it's going to take an awful lot of good luck for someone else to overtake him, I think. It's just got too much of a track record. Form recently has been brilliant. Form in practice has been good. It's been won twice in the last week, matches from up this end. So I'm not going to say it's his to lose.
To be fair, he's under a lot of pressure because he's expected to win off it, and that's the difference. And it's a gamble for him. He's got to do the right thing.
Well, this is what sorts a man out from the boys, though, Fordy, isn't it? We've seen an awful lot of these, whether it's national, international, for points or for massive prizes like this. 50 grand. The very fact that there's £50,000 notes involved in this, you and I know what it's like fishing for a pound. Now, can you imagine what he feels like in this 50,000 of the things?
But you see, this is the funny thing, isn't it? You get yourself into these positions where you think, well, I really want to fish in a big final. And then you get there and he must be sitting on that box there wondering what the heck he's going through, because his nerves will be jangling.
Well, Grant, you'll know this. You've been in an awful lot of these. You've won a lot of these as well. We both fish for England. They're, I would say, retrospectively enjoyable.
Oh, it's amazing. I'm gutted that I'm not even here myself. Everyone wants to be in these big finals. It'd be a great day. But yeah, there's a lot of pressure on all of them.
I can't wait to see what happens in this match, because this lake really can deliver some special fishing, can't it?
Yeah, big fish as well. Make a difference. Last hour and a half of the match, them big fish will come into it. And if Annie doesn't catch straight away, it'll be really interesting. Really interesting.
Well, Hughesy, isn't it interesting? We see Andy Bailey, who draws the peg that everybody wanted on peg 12, and what's happened? The bloke next to him, Francis O'Reilly, has had an absolutely brilliant start. That's his third fish.
Absolutely, that looks like a good fish as well. It seems to be a decent carp, and that will probably rattle next door, on either side. It's nice to see fish coming out, but somebody catching a big fish that big, that early on, that's going to frighten him a little bit. Let's just have a look now at peg number 10, Toby Pepper. He's fishing a slightly different method to Francis next door. Francis is on the pole, Toby is on either the feeder or the bomb and pellet. We're not sure exactly which one yet. We'll have a look as and when it comes out. But he's chucking over towards that island and he's into another good fish there. So the carp are on the feed at this end of the lake for sure.
The fascinating thing for me is when you see, Andy Bailey was nervous enough before the start, and as Grant said, it'll be interesting to see what happens when the match starts. And Andy's not had a fish yet. That's another good fish, isn't it?
That is a good fish, that.
I mean, you see fish
pulled out
like
of it.
that.
Has he got it? No, that was it. It was foul hooked. It was hooked in the tail or towards the back end. You could see that he was pulling it back towards him. He's got a pink boilie and the method feeder on there. So it shows the fish are in the area, little pink 8mm boilies, but he got that fish very, very close to the net and unfortunately just pulled that little bit too hard and the hook's pulled out. It wasn't in the mouth. If it was in the mouth, he'd have landed that, no question. And, that will really rattle him. Great news that there's big fish in the area and they're in the area of the feed. Bad news he didn't get that. That was £10, that fish.
Well, Grant, what have you seen so far? It's an interesting start.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I mean, Andy Bailey on the end peg, I haven't seen him have a bite yet, which I'm absolutely shocked about, because that was the money peg. Everybody thought that was going to be an out-and-out flyer, and he hasn't had a fish.
How's Andy Bailey going to be feeling at this moment?
Well, we said earlier, I think he's under pressure anyway, because obviously that's the peg that everybody wanted. I'm sure he will start catching. It's just a matter of time before he does start putting fish in the net. And if he doesn't, there's a lot of people on this lake in for a chance.
Now, something else interesting is happening with Andy Bailey, because the way that this match is organised is that the end pegs, so there are 4 end pegs here, they've got blockers next to them. So immediately to Andy's right, there in the blue shirt, we have a blocker who is basically stopping him having that end peg advantage. And the bad news for Andy is that his blocker is catching fish. Now it looks like Andy's just hooked into a fish there. Grant.
Yeah, Andy. Yeah, I mean, look, obviously we're starting the block a bit. Yeah, it's to stop an advantage really. So that's what it's there to do, to try and stop him having it all to himself. And as you say, he's just hooked into his first fish on the method. So you know, this could be a start of him catching some fish now. But it'll be very interesting.
It's a smaller fish, isn't it? I mean, but it is that confidence-boosting fish that gets him off the mark, which is all important.
Yeah, I mean, he's under, like I said, he's under pressure, but he's had a fish now, so that'll make a massive difference for him now. He's got one in the net, and hopefully he'll start catching a few fish now.
When you go through that sort of awful feeling of not catching anything when the match, especially if you've got a fancied peg like Andy has, what's that like when you're sitting there and you're thinking, come on, Tip, go round, for goodness sake, go round.
It's not nice. You draw a flyer, you're expected to win. But sometimes, they've got fins, they swim around, and it's the pressure of trying to win off that peg that everyone's expecting you to win off. And that's pressure on its own. But he's a good angler. He'll overcome that, and he'll just keep plodding away. And when them fish turn up, he'll do the damage.
It's just what you said, mate. Look, he's in again.
Yeah, I mean, that's his second chuck on that same line, and he's got one straight away. And this is the thing with his peg. He's got no one opposite him either. I know he's got a blocker, but he's got nobody opposite him. So if these fish turn up, he's in for a cracking day's fishing.
And again, every fish in these competitions is going to count massively because there are so many good anglers here. And this is, again, when the nerves start to jangle.
Yeah. I mean, there's no rush. There's no rush. If you hook a fish, you want it to go in the net. So why try and pull it in quicker than it wants to come in? Because there's every chance you'll pull out of that fish. So just take your time. There's no rush. Every fish could be worth £50,000. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
There's no rush.
Well, that's a good size fish. What size do you reckon that is?
That's £5, I would say. So that's a nice fish. He's coming back now already. So obviously he's had 2 fish for. I think the other one was probably £1, £2. So he's got £7 roughly, maybe 8. And he's one more fish behind Fran, and Fran hasn't had another fish yet. So he's already pulling back.
Well, there's Andy Bennett on peg 9, another angler in that little stretch between the open water and the island, and that's Andy's first fish of the day. Again, nerve settler. It's just starting to rain here at Larford, which is sent Grant Albutt scuttling to the car for his jacket. Andy Bennett slips the net under his first fish of the day, and that's going to be a very big bonus for him. Decent sized fish again, pushing 7 or 8 pounds, I fancy. Certainly some signs that there are some fish showing in this area.
We've already seen a couple of pegs down at the carp prepared to feed.
Yes.
They're moving. If they're moving, they're feeding, and they're up here.
Yeah.
So really it's just a case now of who's going to tease them into feeding quicker, because at this stage in the game, it's a slow, steady start, but £5 or £10 extra now can mean a massive amount later on. We know there's going to be a sprint later, but every fish now is important, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the first 3 hours, Rob, of the match is very, very important because, like you said, the last hour and a half, 2 hours of the match, it's going to be a sprint, and who can catch the biggest fish, quickly.
Bit of an indication there, and he's in. He's lifted into that.
And that was probably a minute, to be fair, since the cast, and that's what you want. You want quick bites.
What in this situation, when you've got a peg like this in front of you and a venue like Larford, which sees an awful lot of pressure, how important do you think the sound of that feeder hitting the water is? It's one of those things that I've always had a theory about. Fish are noise feeders as well as being attracted by food.
Yeah, it's a dinner bell. That's exactly what it is, mate. They know the sound of everything now, pellets going in, casters going in, whatever. They know that every single sound it could be potentially food for them. And if you're casting regularly and you've got a lot of fish in your peg, this is when you can start putting a big weight together.
I think a lot of it's been settled as well, isn't it? And just being steady with what you're doing, getting into that rhythm. And I'm just watching him playing this fish in now. He's tipped relatively low, and it's a very, very steady wind in. He's not putting any serious pressure on that. There's only just a light bend in that rod. He's teasing it over here.
Yeah.
Could be an F1, of course.
It could be. I mean, and again, you need to have it. You want a nice little soft rod as well, because it's very shallow. It's not really. It's 4 foot deep. This lake here, on this side. So having a nice soft rod would help as well, especially when you've got them under your feet. When take a run or a lunge. You
Just
want
had a
that rod
quick
to
look
go
at
there.
that. That's a common.
Yeah, it is.
So
a
it's
common,
definitely
yeah.
carp that are feeding there now.
Yeah. But
Tip up in the air.
They're fishing for a lot of money. There's a lot of pressure on them, and they'll all be nervous. Every single one of them, especially when you draw a peg like this, you're going to have a few more nerves, I think. But like I say, once you get yourself settled down, you'll get himself into a rhythm, and he'll do really well.
There's all sorts of influencing factors, isn't it? You know, this early on in a match, everybody's expecting him to go off into the lead.
Yeah.
And here in the commentary, there's a commentator, Phil Briscoe's on the microphone, and all the lads around the lake can hear exactly what's happening, which is, I think this is the only lake or the only event that you can hear that, and it adds another dimension to it. Oh, couldn't you believe that? Oh.
It snapped him, hasn't it? It's snapped his hook length.
Well, Grant, there's Stuart Fotheringham on peg 4, who's had a half-decent first hour or so, and word on the bank is that he's got probably 20, maybe 25 pounds, just landing another fish. Very capable angler, Stu.
Yeah, I don't know if you can notice out there's a lot of big fish swimming around now. Obviously, they're not stopping, but if they do stop, which obviously a few are, he's picking a few off now. And I shouted down to him, "What have you got?" And he admitted to 20. Now,
never believe a match angler when they tell you what they've...
Exactly that. He's probably got £30. He's just netted another. There's a few fish there, and to be fair, I think there's a lot of people at this minute that can win this, because that end peg isn't producing like we thought it was going to. So this is open to anybody.
Since we've been up that end though, Francis O'Reilly's had a couple of other fish. I'm getting the sense that he's in with a shout at the moment. Obviously we know Stu is. There are a couple of fish on that far bank as well. I think Tommy Hilliard's had a couple of fish. Luke Bamford's had a few fish. It's very close still.
Yeah, very close. Even Craig Goldstraw on this side as well. He had a real good run of fish. He got 6, 7 or 8 fish. So he's going to have 20, 30 pound.
And there you see Stuart Fotheringham once again, as we're standing here talking, just after he's landed that other one, straight in, straight back round again.
Yeah, I mean, that's hit the water and it's literally gone straight round, which is, he's a contender now. If he can keep them coming, he's probably leading the match now, I would say. He's going to have over £30 with this fish, so he's a definite contender.
Well, Grant, we're just looking right across to the Burbank, and there on peg 19 is Simon Richardson, who's just starting to catch a few fish, which is an interesting thing because there are 1 or 2 fish in this kind of central area of the lake, aren't there?
Yeah, there is. I mean, obviously he's opposite Stuart. Stuart's catching a few now, but he's just had 2 and 2 chucks. Only small fish, but the thing is he's putting fish in the net. And I can tell you, Simon's a friend of mine, and if the fish over on that bank, because it's a bit deeper than this side, come down that edge, he'll be very dangerous. He'll be one to watch evil. So if he can keep putting fish in his net now, and then the sort of, what we call it, a race, the last 2 hours, who can get these fish in quickest, and he'll be dangerous.
I'm getting a real feeling about this match, and obviously this is down to the venue and the way the fish feed here, that this is going to be a really interesting last couple of hours, because we'll plod through for 3 hours wondering who's doing what, and people will catch a few fish, and then in that last sort of 90 minutes or so, it's going to go ballistic, isn't it?
Yeah, I believe so. I mean, obviously we all thought, as I said to you earlier, that end peg 12 was going to dominate. He hasn't dominated, so this is open to anybody now, I think, and the last 2 hours will be who's going to win it.
If we look at Stuart Fotheringham now, so Stu's got probably 30, maybe £35, which may even put him in the lead. I mean, he could be leading now, but actually, in terms of the sort of the overall picture of this match, that doesn't actually mean a lot, does it?
No, not really. I mean, he's catching fish steady now, but the only thing is that bank over there, they've got deeper margins. What I mean by that is obviously he goes off quicker than here. It's more of a sandy bank, so it's like a beach over here. So the fish will come in and you'll see them, but they'll spook easier. So I think they've got more of an advantage over the other side than this side. But if he can carry on putting fish in his net, and stay in front, he might not fish well the last 2 hours. It might just be like it is now.
But look, all we do is speculate in these matches. Essentially we haven't got a clue, nor anybody else. It's part of the wonder of this sort of fishing, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, that's why it's called fishing and not catching, because you just never know. So it's certainly going to be interesting.
The frightening thing for me is you look at those guys over on that Burbank and you know that if those fish switch on in that last 2 hours, some of the fish in here are £10, and if you get half a dozen of them, £60-70, you could put, completely turn the match on its head in the last hour.
Yeah, and the way it has gone in previous years, I think that's what will happen. And then, like you say, they're all £10 pluses down the edge, and you could be nowhere to winning it, and that's the beauty of fishing. We're probably at the halfway stage now, Hughesy. It's been a fascinating match and it's gone past very rapidly. My money at the moment, has to be said, is probably on Stuart Fotheringham, who seems to be on about £50. We know that the last couple of hours of this match are going to be where it's won and lost, but what I wanted to talk to you a little bit about was the weather. Our favourite subject as Englishmen, isn't it? And I know that we've had sort of all 4 seasons in one day today. It's been freezing cold this morning. Now it's warming up a bit, sunshine, load of rain, and I was told last night that there was an awful lot of cold water went into this lake. There was some flooding locally. How's that going to affect the fishing?
As we know, cold water sinks. So as a result, the deeper area of the lake, particularly the Burbank, that might be the area that's suffering more because the colder water will sink to the bottom. When you look at the weather conditions, they're not exactly brilliant. They're not warm, so the fish aren't going to be encouraged to come into the shallows. However, the converse of that is that if cold water goes in, it's going to cool the bottom of the lake down, so they will come up in the water. Now, what we've seen is on this shallow bank over here, in an area that we don't normally see fish, we've seen them. And they shouldn't be there. They shouldn't be there because there's disturbance. They shouldn't be there because it's too shallow. They shouldn't be there because it's the sandy area where at this time of year there isn't that much food. And you know what? That's where they are. Hence the reason that Peg 4, that normally doesn't do too much, is actually now producing a few fish. I think he's fishing an absolute blinder at the moment. He's look at the pegs either side and you can see whether somebody's fishing well or whether the area is fishing well for them by what the guys around him are doing. And the guys around him are doing absolutely nothing, and he is fishing an absolute perler. He's got a lot to hang on to though, because I'm sure that it will switch on later on that far side, because it always does. So there's all sorts of things that are skewing this match. The fish are still up by the island, make no mistake about that. What's going on up there, I don't know. I think it's tactical issues, but that's not down to me to say. That's down for us to have a look at, and we'll see later on as to whether that develops. Now, it's all very well having a really, really good last hour, but if you've caught nothing in the first 4, you've got to put a hell of a sprint on to catch up. And down here with £50 on the scorecard already, there or thereabouts, he's got a great start. That top end, it just seems to be a bit sluggish, and I'm not singling out one peg. I'm singling out 3 or 4 pegs where it just seems to be that little bit sluggish at the moment, and if they want to win, they've got to turn that gas up.
Well, Grant, we've got 2 hours left, and this is the time to press the button by the look of it, because we've wandered round onto the Burbank, and there just in front of us on peg 19 is Simon Richardson, who, as predicted, has gone down the edge.
Yeah, I don't think he's had anything as yet, but I spoke to Simon last night at the gala evening, and he said if he could catch them fish down the edge, he's got it sussed. As of yet, he hasn't had a bite down the edge, but we've got 2 hours left. He could catch a weight in an hour, so it's not over yet. There's still plenty to play for.
One of the things Rob was saying a little bit earlier on about the weather and the cold water going in, and of course we know that cold water sinks, and if the margins this side are deeper, there's more cold water down at the bottom where you'd normally catch the fish. You would fish on the deck in the margins, wouldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. I mean, you only tend to come off the bottom if there's that many fish in your peg, and you come off the bottom rather than try and foul hook them. But as I say, we've just walked round. It's a lot colder over here as well.
It is, isn't it? It's interesting.
That wind is very, very cold. It might not come into play.
There's Sean McCarthy, who is directly opposite Stuart Fotheringham on peg 4, and it looks like Sean is starting to pick up 1 or 2 fish using similar tactics to those being used by Stuart. So bomb and pellet. I can't see whether he's got bomb and pellet or method feeder at the moment. The fish seem to be sitting out a little bit, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, it's you can see that the fish haven't moved in close yet, because everybody's still fishing out, and anybody who is fishing close aren't getting any bites. So he's on a bomb and pellet there. That's a nice carp that he's had there.
And there's Stuart landing yet another fish. It's clear there are some fish in that open water.
Yeah, and Sean McCarthy, he's right opposite him, and they've both had a fish exactly the same time. So, you know, it seems to me that the fish have moved down from that top end and they seem to be feeding a bit better in the middle.
We've been watching Stu for a little while. About, I suppose, an hour ago, we were saying he had, what, 45, 50 pounds. If you were going to put some money on now, what do you reckon he's got? What sort of weight do you think he's got in his net?
I'm guessing 60, 70 pound. I wouldn't say he's got much more than that because some fish are bigger than others. I'll go for 70 pound max. But, you know, we've still got 2 hours, so he's doing well.
Just looking over at peg 6, and there's Craig Goldstraw, and he's got some fairly good company with him as his bank runner, hasn't he?
Yeah, I think it's Jamie Hughes. Never heard of him, mate. He's got the best company with him. He couldn't have anybody better, obviously, apart from myself.
Well, present company, I was going to say.
Yeah. No, he's caught steady as well. He'll not be far behind him, and I think he's got a good fish on there. Yeah, it'd be between. I think maybe Craig could be second, to be fair. But I'll tell you what, we are hearing that peg 12, he's started to catch a few fish.
Interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, well, whether he's catching enough is another matter. But you can hear him on the tannoy, and obviously we're going to have a look in a minute and see exactly what he has got. But I have heard his name mentioned a few times now, so we know that he has definitely caught a few more since we left him last.
Also next door to Andy Bailey on peg 11, Francis O'Reilly's had a couple, but let's just have a little look at Craig landing this one. He's a very capable angler too, isn't he? He's on the Midlands circuit, I know, he fishes all round these sort of parts, and he's an up-and-coming angler who's been very successful on the match circuit and starting to get into a few big finals too.
Yeah, absolutely, and he's obviously good friends with Jamie. He sat with Jamie on the Fishermania, I believe. But you know, when you're in the company with good anglers who you can learn off as well, and Craig being a young lad, you know, he's one to watch definitely for the future.
Well, Grant, we've made our way back up to the top end of the match lake here at Larford. We're looking at peg 12 once again, and there's Andy Bailey, who was the pre-match favourite. I can report with about an hour and 15 minutes to go, it looks like Andy's got 50, maybe 60 pounds, so he's not out of it by any means.
No, and obviously you can see the footage on the end of that island there. There's fish there. He's just cast out, and the fish are swirling everywhere. It's fishing his peg.
I can see.
Now, to me, you know, this is not my match, but this is only my opinion. He can't catch on the method, right? He's not going round. I can see 5 fish there now at least, and he's pinging pellets. So what I would be doing now, and it's only my opinion, is I would be chucking a straight lead with a pellet on it, because clearly they ain't picking that method up, but they are eating something, and it's the loose offerings that he's feeding. So surely, you know, he's run out like Kieran or something should be telling him to, right, try a lead with a pellet on it. And that could produce fish for him.
Which, interestingly, is the method that Stuart Fotheringham's catching on down in the middle of the lake, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can see, and we can see how many fish are there right now, and he's not getting bites.
Well, Grant, we're just looking across at the Burbank, and there's Tommy Hillier on peg 14. And I think what you said is likely to happen seems to be happening, because Tommy's just landed his second fish in about the last 5 minutes. Doesn't look very big, but fish in the net nonetheless.
Yeah, I think he had one previous to that as well. So I think that's 2 fish in literally 5 minutes. It's carp o'clock, mate. It's that time of day now where most of the matches are finished. Well, he's still got an hour. Andy Bennett in front of us here, he's just gone down the edge and had one straight away.
I tell you what, Andy Bennett's the last bloke you want to be chasing you. He's a fantastic match angler who's won some huge competitions, and he's a real competitor.
Yeah, he's, mate. And if he's on big fish as well, it won't take him long to get him out, and he knows he's behind, so he's going to give him a little bit more stick and try and get him in as quick as he can.
I was just speaking to his bank runner Paul Holland, who is also no mug in match fishing circles. You know, a lot of the match anglers here have got very, very able people at their side. And Paul said that Andy's got about 50, maybe 55 pounds. So he's in the right postcode as well.
Yeah, well, you know, if this fish ends up being like a £10 fish, that's £60. That puts him not very far behind the winners at the minute. So, listen, this is going to be an interesting hour, mate, let me tell you. You could go from, you know, 0 to hero in no time at all. So it's going to, you know, I wouldn't want to call it now. Yeah, that's a good fish. What's that? I bet that's £6-7.
Might be a bit bigger actually.
Yeah, £6-7 definitely. You know, that puts him on nearly £60. He's not far behind, and we've got how long we got left? 45 minutes. You don't need many fish to catch up, mate, let me tell you. And he's a man to do it. Well, let's have a little look round at Andy Bennett then, who, as we've already established, is a man on the charge. I just was watching him for a second. He struck at 2 or 3 bites in the last 10 minutes. He missed one. Yeah. A couple of minutes after that, he was dropped his rig in, and a tail came up next to it from an enormous fish, and it might well be that one that he's just landed. That's another fish of 6 or 7 pounds, isn't it?
That's 2 fish he's had now for 15 pounds. So if he was on 50, he's on 65 plus now, maybe 70 pounds. So he's well in contention now. He's still got 40 minutes left. If he can keep catching fish like that, he's well in there. And he's a dangerous angler. He's a fantastic angler. And the nice thing about Andy, he'll be calm. This will not phase him one bit. He'll be. He'll
just
be
a day's fishing.
It's just another day's fishing for him, yeah.
Well, it's all going off now. We've got about 40 minutes left. We're looking at Andy Lum on peg 8, who's just hooked into a lump. You reckon he's fishing pace the other side of those lily pads, don't you? That looks like a huge fish.
Yeah, it's a big fish. I actually don't know Andy that well, to be fair, but from what I do know of him, he's a very, very good paced angler, of which is something that I don't do. And he's got a right lump on here. And at the same time, next peg to him, Andy Bennett, he's coming fishing away from the edge, but in shallow water. He's had a big lump as well. So yeah, I mean,
look at the size of that. That's extraordinary fish to catch in a match on a pole, isn't it?
£10 fish. It's double figures. He's a double figure common that. Might go a bit more than £10 that. And Andy's in again. Andy's into one as well. So, it's.
So you look at the size of the bottom of that fish. It's enormous.
Yeah, he's a big.
2 hands.
Pace fish seem to be bigger fish for some reason. I don't know. Something that I don't do personally, but I know he's very, very good at it. And if he can catch a few more of them, he'll not be far behind either.
And mate, there is Andy Bennett once again on peg 9. He seems to be, in this last hour, the angler who's catching the most consistently. Perhaps that's no surprise because we know Andy Bennett, but he seems to be the most consistent. We keep hearing Stuart Fotheringham's hook to fish. Andy Lum not catching as fast as Andy Bennett. What do you reckon?
It's interesting, mate. I mean, Andy's feeding it really well as well. I'm seeing him, he's going in, he's feeding one bit of bait and waiting for that one bite. He's not chucking loads of bait in and overfeeding it. He's just catching the one fish that comes into his peg. And I have to say, he's doing a great job of it as well.
Let's just watch this sort of landing sequence. I mean, how smooth he is. Let's just see how big this fish is. I bet we might be a bit surprised. Look, it's straight in the net. It's no bother at all.
He knows how to net fish. I mean, that's a £5 fish. That's another £5. So, he's well in contention now. Just depends on how far Stuart was in front of him, because we don't really know. Because obviously he's been catching fish steady all day. Stuart might have £100. We don't really know, but it's certainly going to be interesting to find out who's got what.
It's brilliant, isn't it? What a match!
You don't want to call it now at the end, to be fair.
Well, mate, it's 20 minutes until this match reaches its conclusion. We're behind the man who we think, and I use that term advisedly, we think is winning the match, and that's Stuart Fotheringham on peg 4. I've just been down to have a little chat with Stu while he was putting in a third keep net, which is interesting in itself. And you'll like this. He says he's got £108. Now that's quite precise. It's good, isn't it?
I like it. I do like that. £108. He's definitely in front. Obviously, we're watching Andy Bennett and Andy Lum. I reckon Andy Bennett's got £80. With the fish, with what they admitted and the fish he's caught while we were watching him, the guy next to him, which is a bit of a surprise, he might have £80 as well. So, obviously, there's not long left now. So, they can catch 3 or 4 fish, mate. They'll catch him up, unless he can keep
picking that odd fish off.
Well, look, Grant, let's have a little look at Andy Lum here, because news is starting to reach us that he's actually, I mean, no surprise catching fish like that, but he's actually probably closer to 70 or even 80 pounds. Let's just watch his process here. He's fishing with paste, and you can see that enormous cup on the end of his pole. So his hook bait's in there.
Yeah.
He drops it in.
What he's got, yeah, I've watched what he looks like he's feeding micros with his paste. Now, I just spoke to some of the people who are watching him behind, and I asked them what he got. They said about £70. That could be £80.
Well, the size of those things we've seen him land.
And he's lost 3 big fish as well, I know he has. So, let me tell you, this kid is in contention, definitely, from what we've been told now. I mean, we haven't heard his name mentioned much today, but you don't need your name mentioned much with an all £10 fish.
Do you know, there's a lovely story with him as well, because it's a complete accident that he's here. He turned up to fish another match at Lindholm, having put it in his diary, and turned up to find he'd got the wrong date. And instead of the match that he was due to fish, it was the qualifier for this final, which he duly fished and then won. So, technically speaking, Andy Lum shouldn't even be here. Wouldn't that be fantastic if he went and won the 50 grand?
Yeah, do you know what? I might put my money on him now instead.
So, let's be serious for a minute. We're in the last half hour of this competition for £50,000. How many people are seriously in contention for the money?
I'm going to go for 3 anglers here. I've gone Andy Bennett, Andy Lum and Stuart Fotheringham. I think they're the top 3 leaders, and any one of them. I think Stuart's in front still, because we don't really know what Stuart's got.
Do you know, I think it's been a brilliant match, full stop. It's really interesting that what's happened at the draw is that the two kind of form horses, if you like, in Mr. Wingcup and Mr. Power, have been completely out of it at the draw. The bloke who's drawn what everybody thought was the flyer has not managed to extract the best from it. And suddenly you've got 3 or 4 people here on this bank who are, you know, neck and neck. I mean, Stuart's ahead, there's no question, but Andy Lum and Andy Bennett are on his coattails. If he gets this in, if he gets the net under it, which he's just about to do, he's missed it with 1 scoop.
That's 3 goes at it now. And what he's got to try and do is he's got to try and get in front of it. He's trying to net it from behind, which is just such a difficult thing because it's pointing in the wrong direction.
Rain's hammering down.
On both us, Stuart, the carp and the camera. And he keeps doing the same thing there at the moment. And what he's doing is he's trying to net it, but it's quite a long fish. He's got to get it well around the other side of him and come at it from the front. That's it, lad. There it goes. That's the way to do it.
That's a brilliant piece of angling.
Big fish.
And you know, just to butt in here, lads, the beauty of that could be worth £50,000.
Absolutely.
That's the beauty of it. You know, to get a foul hook fishing is an achievement anyway. But right at the death now, that could be £50,000 worth of fish.
That looks towards the thick end of £10. It might not quite be there, but it's certainly above 8.
Yeah. Fair play to the lad. He's fished a brilliant match all the way through.
Well, Hughes, the effort equals reward. And there we see Stuart Fotheringham, who has just put that fish in the keep net. He's chucked his bomb out, the trusty bomb that's been working for him all afternoon. The tip has gone straight round.
Just brilliant. It shows that he's cooked his swim just right, and it's actually getting stronger. And, you know, this is the sign of very, very good baiting. You look around in what's happening, and people are catching fish now, but he's done it all the way through. But what he's done is he's got the gas mark just at the right place all the way through, and he started on gas mark 4, and now when everyone thinks they've got a chance, he's cooking on 8. He is absolutely flying with it now. You know, how long's that been in? 30 seconds maximum. That is a perfectly done piece of toast, albeit a small one, look.
Toast on gas mark 8. Welcome to MasterChef here at Larford. Gordon Ramsay's got nothing on Hughesy. Well, the clock's ticking down. We are in probably the last minute and a half of this match. In fact, last minute as Phil Bresco shouts over the tannoy system. And there is Stuart Fotheringham, who's just landed 1 fish a couple of minutes ago. And this surely is the fish that's going to win it for him.
Yeah, I think he's the leader without a shadow of a doubt now. And do you know what? I have to say, we've watched everyone today. He's a worthy winner, mate. He's fished an absolute blinder. And he deserves that 50 grand.
It's one of those magical moments in sport when just all the stars align, isn't it? He's drawn a peg he didn't fancy. He's obviously chucked out his bomb and pellet thinking, well, I'll go in gently and, you know, see what happens. And it's gone round once, then it's gone round again. And he's not put that rod down all day.
No, he's fished it brilliant, mate. I have to say, you know, he's just He just fished a great match, and hopefully he'll win this match. I can't see anybody else beating him. I say he's still got time to play that one and get it in the net. I reckon he's got 120, and you know what? Fair play to him. He's fished a fantastic match.
So the hoot has just gone for the end of the match, and just to be clear in the rules of the competition, the anglers who are playing fish when the hooter goes have got 10 minutes to land it and it will still count. So that fish that Stuart has on now, which
is in the net,
he's just landed again.
Yeah, that's
it's a big fish too.
Yeah, it's a good fish, not a 5-6 pound fish. And fair play to him. You know, what can you say? He deserves it. Absolute blinder.
How's he going to be feeling now?
Over the moon. He's 50 grand richer. So yeah, he's going to be chuffed to bits, mate. And he's a nice kid as well. So you know, well deserved. Well deserved.
So there goes Stuart Fotheringham. The match is over. He's just landed one more fish. Big smile on his face. I think his face would explode if he smiled anymore. Now then, Stu, what's your feeling? What do you reckon?
I don't know. I've just fished my own match. I hadn't even looked around really. My mate rung me to tell me the guy next to me had 3 down the edge. I didn't even see him getting them. I've just fished my match. So, just people are saying I've won, hopefully, but God knows.
What have you got?
I think I've got 130, but I might have just overestimated the fish a little bit because of the keep net ruling left £70. But about 130, I'd say.
I was hoping for a good start on the method, which didn't happen. I never had about 50 minutes. I'd give it a bit of time because if they turn up, they're big. And then I caught £40 in the next 4 hours, 3.5 hours fishing a bomb. And then I probably had £70 last hour down the edge. So it nearly went to plan, but just had a slow start.
Extraordinary venue, isn't it, this?
Oh yeah, I mean, this is what you want for a big final because you're never out of it. You know, with an hour and a half to go, I honestly thought, I've got no chance. There's nothing happening, an odd fish, and then they turn up and they're £10 a piece, 7 or 8 fish, you know, you're back in it. So, fingers crossed, you know, I'm second maybe or third. I'll be happy with that from where I was an hour and a half to go.
What would it mean to you to have won this match?
Oh, it mean the world after all the prep and all the years of doing it, and last 7 years trying to get to these big finals, and that's what the aim's been, to get to the finals, fish as many qualifiers. And I always said to my son, if you keep on getting to the final, you'll win one eventually, because you're going to draw up fish.
You've got your family behind you, haven't you? What's that mean to be in a big match like this, to have done so well and have your family standing there watching you?
Awesome, that's just awesome, and it just means well to me that they're here. I can't really think of what else to say. You've got me nervous now that whether I'm won or not.
So here is the key moment of this competition, a lovely moment there, in fact, where John Wincup, the man who won absolutely everything in UK match fishing, has just been up to congratulate Stuart Fotheringham on a brilliant match fish. And this is Stuart's first weigh in. So 19.6 in his first net. And I think that's actually the third net that he put in, the last one.
There's a lot of fish in the sort of £5 to £10 bracket. £39 a 1 ounce there. So, you know, and they still keep coming, don't they?
This is Stu's final net, could be the biggest one, and he's already on £83 4 ounces. How must his nerves be at this point? You know, seeing these fish go into the bucket for the weigh. I mean, it's
Yeah, I don't think he'll be nervous now. The nerves have gone. It's just a case of it is what it is. And it's more hope than nerves, that he just wants that scale to keep going round, those numbers to keep being big numbers. 32.9, that's £146. £147.2 is the confirmation on that, 147.2.
Well, Grant, here's Andy Bennett, and I'm sensing that this might be a kind of a nearly moment for him.
Yeah, I mean, he's not going to be that far away. I mean, he's been unlucky, really, because from what I've been told, the last 28 minutes, he hasn't had a fish.
That's amazing.
But he's going to have a weight. He's going to have over £100, I think. You know, we'll have to wait and see. It's going to be close.
£107 and 15 ounces for Andy Bennett. He's lost a few fish, and as we said, didn't have a fish in the last 28 minutes. 3 fish?
Yeah, well, yeah, but he's £40 behind, which is, and you could see how big they were that he was catching. He's just been unfortunate that he hasn't had a fish in the last half an hour.
So here's confirmation of the final weights in the first ever Golden Reel final. Stuart Fotheringham weighed in £147 2 ounces to win it. Andy Bennett fell short with that quiet last half hour. He took £5,000 for second. Craig Goldstraw was third and won £3,000. But the big money went to the man from peg 4.
The Golden Reel is proudly sponsored by Colmick. Fishing tackle designed with Italian passion.